Alright class, welcome to another lesson. Today we're going to be talking about human impact on the oceans. On the top of your page, please write science, 8th, 10.7 for lesson 7, unit 10. And like I said, we're going to be talking about the human impact on the oceans. And this is pretty important to environmental changes and things like that, especially with keeping purified water feasible throughout the ecosystem. So as always with the yellow highlighted, please follow along as these will be the answers to the questions going along. So we all depend upon the ocean for food, transport, and recreation. We also depend upon the oceans as a source of water and minerals. We must be careful to pay attention to the problems that face our oceans, and we must manage the resource carefully. Sometimes people do not pay very much attention to what's going on environmentally with the oceans, and there's several reasons for this lack of attention. First off, people don't live in the ocean. It is much easier to see the results of pollution or mismanagement of the land near your hometown. If a coal mining company destroys the groundwater of a community and spoils the drinking water source for the whole area, it is evident, which means being obvious or clearly seen, and people could get upset because of it. However, no one really knows how much pollution is being placed in the ocean or of its ecosystem in the coral reefs that are being damaged, because no one sees it happen. So with that being said, it's also important to know that in the 20th century, internationally, treaties determined that nations own the oceans near the shores, and nations are responsible for the waters 12 miles off their coast, and no other nations can enter these waters without the permission of the owners. Nations also have a 200-mile zones where they control the fishing and commerce off their coast. However, the deep ocean is truly international, therefore no one is actually patrolling or policing the deep oceans. Third, there are international agreements that control fishing in their international waters. But not all nations have agreed to these treaties. These nations do not feel obligated, which means have responsibility, to the follow of the rules agreed to other nations. In addition, some of these nations have agreed to the treaties and still have fishermen poaching in these waters. It is illegal traffic that is difficult to be stopped because it is hard to catch people doing it if they're not being monitored. So going on, we have people are damaging these waters and different ocean systems, and there are 5 basically areas that are addressed together, and these are understood to be problems in the oceans that must be solved. These include exploitation of certain fish species leading to endangerment, damage to the ecosystem causing loss of habitat, pollution of coastal waters, introduction to non-native species, and climate change. Each of these areas is fertilized ground for serious argument. You will find a wide range of views on the seriousness of each of these areas, and you will find a little agreement concerning the solutions. And now another problem with these waters is overfishing. The exploitation of fish species, such as some kind of tuna or other food fish, has led to much disagreement among nations. In the past, these were few restrictions, however, these fish could be taken. Now there are international agreements to protect these species by limiting the numbers that each nation can harvest. Unfortunately, though, many nations do not abide by these rules. Several important types of food fish, along with most variety of whales, are in danger of extinction. This situation must improve because more than 1 billion people depend upon daily fishing for their foods. Another problem is loss of habitat. The coastal regions have been damaged by fishing methods and that have led to destruction of the reefs and other habitats near the shore. Fish depend on the reefs for their habitat, and many reefs have been damaged or destroyed by overfishing, destructive fishing methods, or pollution. The fish areas of the coast of some nations have been protected, but other fishing areas, such as those off the coast of Asia, Africa, have not. These areas must be protected or many species of fish in the other oceans will be lost. Another one is loss of habitat, which the coastal regions have been damaged by fishing methods that had led to destruction of the reefs and other habitats near the shore. Fish depend upon the reefs for their habitats, and many reefs have been damaged by or destroyed by overfishing. Destructive fishing methods or pollution. These fishing areas off the coast of some nations have been protected, but other fishing areas such as those off the coast of Asia and Africa have not. Wait, did I already read this one? Oh, I'm sorry. I already read that part. But pollution, going on with pollution, that's obviously an important factor because it's a devastating effect near coast. And a lot of times, we can have growth in algae in these coast waters, and these growths can have detrimental effects on the oxygen content of coastal waters, killing massive amount of fish, which of course is not good. The humans as well cause pollution by chemicals that not only affect the water near the shore, but the entire ocean of the world, because pollution that is caused in one locality is not just a local problem, it is a global problem, and everyone will suffer from this by, how the water is connected throughout the world. As well, we have oil spills that we've talked about, and it's difficult to get rid of if there's too much oil in a certain area, any oil at all, and even if it's in the lake, the amount of that could be deadly to the population of fish in that area or throughout even the coastal water that we have seen. And then introduction of alien species, which it's not actually me. The definition of alien is saying foreign to that, not an actual alien that we're familiar with, but this is mostly a local problem, and it's concerning for everyone too. Anytime a new species is introduced to an area, they compete for food. So this is an economic problem as well, because the native species is valuable and a newly introduced species is not. So it can have an economic impact, but more importantly, it could upset the balance of the ecosystem. So also climate change is also important. We have global warming, things of that nature, and even slight variation of the water temperature can have a devastating effect of the coral reefs. That's very important as well. Alright guys, this is lesson 7. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know if you have any questions.